Once again, here we are, ready to let go of the reins.
We are. It is October 5th, the year. It's still 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. Listen to the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 720.
Yeah, 720.
Yeah, 280 episodes from retirement.
What are you going to do when you retire, man?
I know I'm never going to retire.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I'll retire at some point. I don't know of any time. I'm definitely not retiring anytime soon. But yeah, and who knows? Maybe when we hit 1,000, we'll do like a once a month. Like a 30-minute. Because it's funny. I was on the way to work this morning. There's a guy who does a podcast that I enjoy listening to every once in a while. I kind of pick and choose which one I want to listen to. But he used to do for like once a week at like an hour, like a really solid hour cast, 40 maybe 40 minutes an hour. This morning I was like, man, that's a good topic. I clicked on it. 25 minutes.
Oh, getting to the point.
25 minutes. Well, the thing is, it's a great guy. But the podcast, of the 25 minutes, he basically quoted 10 other people through the podcast. I was like, man, that's not a bad business model. You find, 10 people throughout the course of, the course of time that you like their quotes, and you're like, yeah, well, so-and-so said this, and then pause, let you think about it. And then so-and-so once said this, and then let people think about it. Like, man, that's just solid. When really all you could done is, go on to Google search and be like, top 10 motivational quotes of all time. And go down and read them and find the one that are right for you. So I'm like, maybe that's the deal. Maybe that's a 25-minute spiel. But he does his on his own. But that's not the way we roll. We like to have a nice, lengthy, in-depth, meaningful conversation, which is what we'll do today. If it's your first time tuning in today, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. I know you have quite a lot of options in the Triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general in terms of revivals. We appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. Mike and I talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. We work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes doing the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between, if all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also frequently utilize our Facebook group, like we did for the last couple of episodes. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource. If you're looking for a really, really experienced group of people willing to lend a hand, offer some of their expertise when you ask a question, that's the place to be. And we'll go on there at least once a month or every 4 to 6 weeks, do a little bit of a Q&A, take the pulse of the community. That's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have an agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah. And that's not always an easy thing to do in this journey.
No, it is definitely not, especially as a coach. It's definitely not. Keeping people, listen, if it was easy, think about the shape the world would be in compared to what it is now. And if you're keeping people happy and healthy, it's tough. Yeah.
I was saying, I feel like, in a lot of ways it's, the world is easier than ever because everything's at our fingertips, and we just order something, it shows up, and all these kind of things. But on some level, that makes everything harder than ever, I think, because I don't know, I think we tend to live in our heads so much, and the more you can kind of isolate, and the more you can kind of be in your own world with no accountability or whatever, or less accountability or people around, it makes it tougher. And I think that's why a lot of us continue to chase these difficult challenges in triathlon, and I think we need it.
I mean, I think one of the main reasons people sign up for races, for events of all distances, is accountability. I mean, you hear it at the end of this year, people are planning for next year. Like, yeah, I really need something on the calendar to kind of keep me, to keep me accountable, to have a purpose, to get excited about something. And because I think, listen, no matter who you are, no matter if you're a person that thrives off of internal motivation or external motivation, everyone teeters back and forth on, different areas. Some, you go through periods of time where you need a lot of external motivation, like your internal motivation is lacking for whatever reason. And then, vice versa. Sometimes you'll really thrive off of and only need internal. But, a lot of people do this sport because of the accountability, to themselves. A lot of people get coaches because they feel like they need accountability. What they really need is just structure, and accountability. That was kind of something we talked about, pre-show and in a conversation I've had with a lot of athletes, the last few weeks. And you and I both get this when it comes to, to prospective athletes is, everyone wants to know, how do you, I really need someone to keep me accountable. And, I'm only going to speak for me here, but it's not my job to keep you accountable when it comes to swimming and biking and running. It's just not. I'm not going to wake up, like the sergeant in the military and rise and shine at 0500, and you better have your bed made, and you better be in full uniform ready to go out and run 5 miles. That's on you. No matter if you got a local coach who's 10 miles down the road, no matter if you got one that's 1,000 miles away, your training is on you. But the accountability piece, which I think comes into play, which I think some people are comfortable with, some people thrive on, and some people really care about, is that life accountability piece, which is, I had a phone call earlier with asking about accountability. And I said, listen, if you want me to, really rip into you about being accountable to do your swim, bike, and run stuff and the training I put in, that, I'll occasionally give you a little bit of a jab. And I mean, occasionally. And you got to know when to do it because it's going to mean something, right? But the other piece is that accountability is accountability to life and to yourself, first and foremost. Not to your goals, not to your one race, but showing accountability to yourself. What is going on in your life? Are you holding yourself accountable? Not just to your racing and your training, but your values or the things you need to change or the adjustments you need to make, whatever it is, whatever your goal is. I speak freely and quite often about my journey in recovery, and I get obviously a lot of questions or text messages about, stuff like that. But I think you would totally agree, when you look back through the 8 to 10 years that I've been doing this and, the 6, 7, 8 that you've been doing it, like my greatest victories as a coach, you can call them a victory, aren't finish lines or the first to the line and you're picking up the tape and you're accomplishing all these, qualifications and first places and whatever it is. Like, it's when someone comes to you and they're like, man, I have totally changed my life, for the good. And I just want to thank you for having that part of it. And obviously we're not the reason for it, but we like for our athletes to know that it is important to us that yes, you are successful in your training, and yes, you perform well, and yes, we're on the right trajectory, and yes, you're happy, and yes, you're healthy. But if the rest of your life is falling by the wayside, then we're not doing our job, right? Not doing our job is it's our job to fix the rest of your life, but it's also our job to shift your compass, right? Mm-hmm. If your training is going great, but the rest of your life is in shambles and it's a total shit show, then it's time to change the compass, to put a little more energy back into your life, right? What's most important? What's going to keep you, for some people, what's going to keep you alive? And like as a coach, that's where I challenge my athletes the most. I've told athletes to go see therapists before. You need to go talk to someone. How are you doing at home? How's your head at? Where are things at? Because that's, again, you have to know that as a coach, but it's uncomfortable in a lot of ways for a lot of people to do that. One, you have to be comfortable as a coach asking, because asking is easy, right? It's what you might get in return, what you might hear is hard, right? It's kind of like where everybody says, hey, how you doing today, man? Everyone, 99%, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Things are great. Things are great. But like if you actually ask it, and you're like, hey, man, how you doing? And somebody's like, they stop like dead in their tracks and like, oh, man, yeah. Thank you for asking. I've been really, and you're like, what the hell? No, I was just asking that. Like, I don't want to need to know. It's like, I don't need. And it's kind of like when someone asks you like, hey man, can you help me move in a few weeks? You're like, oh yeah, man, I got you. And you're like, please don't remember. Please don't remember to call me. Please don't remember to call me. Please don't remember to call me. You just want to say yes in the moment, but you don't want to really, really get into the weeds with it. And then, so it's hard on the coaches to ask that. And I'm comfortable asking it because, like I said, when 10 years ago, when you've been into treatment, you're comfortable sharing anything and talking about anything. But the other piece of it is that some athletes, some people, we don't like to be asked how we're doing because then we might have to give an honest answer. And then we might have to be held accountable for it. Oh, well, now this person knows that I'm struggling with this. And then they're going to ask me again in a week, hey, have you addressed this? Hey, how's this going? How's home life? How are your kids doing? Do you still have that job, that you hate? Have you looked for a different one? Are you making progress in this area? How are things going? You told me you hated the way that you did this and that. Have you changed the way things are at home? No, I haven't. Well, then get your shit together and make it happen. You don't like having those conversations, right? And I think a lot of people detach from personal, real, true, meaningful personal relationships these days because they feel like they're invasive because someone will really know how your life is going versus, the 2 pictures you post a week of the perfect family or perfect life on social media, and then you always see and hear about the opposite. And so I think, accountability is this really broad thing in life. And yes, we need accountability in our lives, not internally, but externally. We need that accountability. We need people to press us. We need people to ask us hard questions. And as athletes, whatever event it is you're training for, you need to be held accountable. Not for someone to always hold you accountable, but for someone to encourage you, right? Because no one's a babysitter. No coach should be a babysitter. Mm. But it's our job, I think, to encourage you and to push you to raise your own level of personal accountability, right? No megaphone, no rah-rah, no, early morning text message and David Goggins video, get up and go crush it today. You fools, if you don't get up, you're a sissy. That's not how it should roll because some days those videos are going to run out. Some days they're going to lose. They're going to become stale. You're not going to get the same, endorphin rush or motivational kick from it. But what you want to do as a coach is instill characteristics and internal motivation and commitment that allows you to be your own highest level of accountability because it is 100% on you. And it's not someone else's role, spouse, friend, training group, tri club, coach, to fill a void in that. It's their job to help you find ways to be your own accountability, because that's the most powerful piece any coach can provide an athlete is to allow them to be self-sustainable, not to create their own training program, but to create their motivation, to hold themselves accountable, right? And at the same time, if you miss a session, move on, right? Showing them that there's way, like an athlete the other day who always struggles with expectations. And right now I'm not making them, but I've heavily encouraged to no longer run with a watch or to go straight chrono, not look at pace and look at anything. And they're like, hey, I missed this today. I've been on a great streak, It's like, the whole paragraph. And I just responded in all caps, show yourself some grace, triple exclamation point. I'm never a big caps lock guy because frankly I find them kind of rude, but I had to go straight in the caps lock. Show yourself some grace, because that is showing yourself accountable. You're not just accountable to your training, but you're also accountable to the demands of life. And that is a lesson that we can all learn that I think also prevents us from blaming everything else, which is one of my biggest pet peeves in life, is to always hear someone blame everybody else and everything else, or so-and-so's fault, or so-and-so did this. And so in my days, because we make our own life, we make our own destiny, we make everything. Everyone's got shit. Everyone's got obstacles. There's always going to be something in the way. But the people who adapt, right? I had this conversation with somebody the other day. I'm going to shut up in a minute, I swear, dude. But, during the, you still got, customer service based industry like hospitality saying, we're, using the tagline unprecedented times, right? Mm-hmm. we're 2 years, 3 years past, being shut down, and you still got people, these are unprecedented times. What? No, it's not. We've been back to work doing shit for a while. And you see companies, I saw it in Chattanooga, where the businesses that thrive adapted immediately. Do they want to be shut down? No. Do they want people to come in? Yes. But did they just sit there and and continuously suck the money out of everything else to get free handouts, or do they just say, you know what, I'm going to figure this shit out, I'm going to make it happen? And their businesses skyrocketed because they were willing to pivot. They were willing to make it happen. They held themselves accountable to a higher standard, which is, we're not going to play the blame game. We're going to hold ourselves accountable because we know there is work to be done. And yes, it is harder to do the work. Yes, it's harder sometimes. And other things that happen in life out of our control make it harder to happen. They make training harder. But we can sit there and be like, my ERG mode on my trainer was not working, and it totally locked up, so I couldn't do my bike workout. Carrying damn bike and go outside. I left my goggles at home and I couldn't swim. Go to Lost and Found. So many things. I left my AirPods. I can't run without music. What? Right? Like, those are simplistic ones, right? It's creating this internal accountability to ourselves to make us get things done. Again, instead of blaming other people for everything or looking for other people to hold you to a higher standard. Because guess what? We can do that for a little bit, but at sometimes raising it and holding you to that, we're going to get tired of holding. And then eventually it's going to be on you, and then where are you left?
Well, you said a lot there, and I always try to pull something out and kind of carry it along with it. And one of the things I had in my head was you're talking about accountability and, with the Goggins thing. And so there's I think we talked about it a couple podcasts ago, but to me, this really does kind of boil back to, where are you looking for your motivation or your guidance or whatever it is? And is it internally or externally? And one of the things I think about a lot as a coach is no matter what happens, one of the things, like you said, you ask those questions and you're not sure you want the answer or whatever, but I've really tried to get to this place where no matter what the situation, and trust me, it feels like there's, everywhere you look, there's some kind of doom and gloom posting, and it's really hard to avoid that or whatever. But my thing has always been let's just look at what's going on and just find a solution, because it's always there. I mean, there's no reason, like you said, I had a terrible weekend of workouts, and I think my races just went to hell. And that's the last thing I always think is your race just went to hell. It's we just got to regroup and figure out what's going on here. And again, you're right. I mean, things run out, right? You can kind of look to people for motivation all you want, and eventually it gets stale, and it's always got to come from inside. I mean, the external push is it's just an extension of dopamine that we're trying to cram into us more and more and more. And eventually, it's just like addiction or anything, or recovery. It's the same kind of principle. Eventually it just hits a wall and there's nowhere else to go. So except inside. And then you have to figure out your own solutions, right? We hadn't talked about it in a while, but I kind of, I don't like it, but I got into suits, and I'm sure you're probably almost done or close to it, right?
Last season, baby.
Okay. I have a love-hate relationship with that so much, man. It's just to me, I've been trying to reframe it, but it's, I used to do it back in the day, and then I didn't have Netflix for years. And then I watched this one. I'm like, damn it, they got me. And it's sort of this hook. But the point I was going to make about that show is it's always one thing I always I know it's a, fictional drama and everything, but I love how they face the most unbelievable, insurmountable thing, and they're always like, all right, how are we going to fix it? How are we going to, it's always looking for that solution. And I just think it's always there. And I think sometimes when we get, like our last podcast, are you gaining fitness, or are you just getting tired? I think people sort of get to that point in triathlon a lot where their lives are just, beating them down so much that anytime training kind of like comes into the picture later, they're beat down, they're tired, exhausted, and then that it makes it worse. And I do think that so many people now, including myself, we all have to figure out our own motivations. And then, like you said, I mean, whether, someone else is helping you be accountable or you're being accountable to yourself, you have to stay on the right track. It's sort of like, if I'm tired, if I don't want to, like if I know, that it's a mental tiredness and that you shouldn't be physically tired. And with my training right now, I'm just trying to limit myself and get done and feel good. But sometimes if I'm just not feeling it, that I'll, like I was saying, I'll jump in, I'll do something that feels like uncomfortable to kind of wake me up. It's almost like shock me out of this sort of mental loop that we get in. It's sort of like you keep thinking about the same shit. And I don't know about you, man, but like one of the reasons I stopped getting on social media a lot is because everything I see on there reminds me of something that maybe I didn't do great or something I should be doing, or, not even should be doing, but you'll see a old friend from like, 10 years ago post something and you're like, damn it, I should have, why did I not say hi to them or call them and like there's so many people now that to try to fulfill all of these quote unquote relationships can be like an enormous drain on me personally. It's sort of like, damn, I used to work with them. Now I see they're having, a baby, and I wasn't even that close with them or anything, but you just know them, and it just sort of gets in your head sometimes. It's like, damn it, I feel like, but like it's an insurmountable challenge to stay up with it. I don't know, Facebook, everybody's got like 1,000 friends or whatever, and it's like, what even is that? It's like when I used to say, I back in the day, I bought all these books, about like self-help books or how to do this book or how to do that book. And eventually I had to just throw them away because I'd look at them and be like, damn it, I never pursued that. And it kind of puts a weight on me. It's like, it's almost like we have to really crystallize and clarify our true internal motivation and find out who we really are and just clear the baggage and not be distracted by it. But it's so easy to be distracted now. So I'm not, blaming anybody or anything. Like, I'm just stating what happens to me a lot. There's like, you get on an email and it's like, oh shit, that reminds me. And then you pull up some old files and then that drags you somewhere else. And I feel like that's kind of what life becomes sometimes. And so it really does come back to, finding out really what makes you happy, what you like, and being tough with it. It's almost like tough love on yourself. You have to really, sit down and be like, I know that this seems really good right now, but I got to avoid it. It's like, it's always that thing, I talked about Hot Chicken Festival back in the day. That day to me is the microcosm of what this is all about. It's sort of like everyone wanted to go to this Hot Chicken Festival when we were back in Nashville, and I had a 5-hour ride or whatever and a brick. And they were all out there texting me while I'm on my bike, on my trainer. And I was like literally in tears because I wasn't hanging out, with those people. And then I got through the day, and the next day I felt like 10 times better because I didn't go. You know what I mean? It's sort of like these surface level temptations that always bite us. But it's really tough to stay the course, man. And it seems like it's not getting any easier. So the quicker we find our clarity and figure out what we really want, the better off we're going to be.
You bring up such a great point about the accountability, and I think the lack of accountability and how we can not blame, but how we should at least recognize the amount of distraction, right, that we have now. We say, yeah, well, it's a different age. It totally is, right? You pick up your phone, and yes, you can limit what apps you have on there, and you still get text messages and emails, and you pick up your phone to, maybe check the weather for tomorrow. When you pick it up, you got 7 text messages and a few notifications and 2 emails. Well, then you get distracted for 30 minutes and you put down your phone, and 20 minutes later, you're like, oh, fuck, I forgot to check the weather.
Yeah.
Because you get so distracted, right? Everybody's done that, right? No one's perfect with their phone. And if you are, congratulations. You're probably not listening to this podcast because you don't have a podcast on your phone. But there's a lot of opportunities to be distracted. You know, I just got in. That's the other thing that what you hear people parlay distraction into is I just got busy. Don't tell me you got busy. You know, it's just funny because like one of the, if you hear people talk about the most valuable thing in life, they'll say it's time. Time is the most valuable thing in life. Your livelihood is based on time. You get paid for your time. Time with your kids, time with your family, time with loved ones. It is the thing that we always come back to, that we say we cherish and value the most. But if time were a currency, 99% of Americans are rolling down the street in a minivan, tossing out $100 bills, wasting time, just throwing it away. Being distracted, scrolling through social media for hours a day, using it to do nothing and to be mindless, to using it as an excuse to not be intentional with your time. People waste time all the time. What we do. Yet it is the most valued thing. And people always get, what's the time? Time with my family, time with my kids, time with my spouse, time with, this, time on this planet. Yet we waste it like we have an endless amount of it that we know when the end date is going to be. The fact is, you got 24 hours a day. How are you using it? You got 3 to 4 hours of time a day. How are you using it? Of extra, that's out of the normal realm of your life responsibilities. How are you using it? Are you using it to help you maybe increase time in your life? Right? Increase how you are going to live, how much longer you're going to live, or at least the likelihood of you living longer. Or are you doing things that are just wasting time and also increasing the likelihood that your time here is shortened? Think about that. Sitting on your ass, eating Cheetos, doing nothing, dying slowly, but also at the same time speeding up the process and creating less time for you, the likelihood of you having more time later. Or spend a little bit of time doing things for yourself, holding yourself accountable, getting in your stuff, no matter what it is, right? Just general responsibilities, that we like to put off, and then asking yourself, why am I not doing this? Oh, I got time. I'm in Training Peaks. I know, but I got time. I'm like, we all got time, but do you know something I don't know? Right? It's in everyone. I'm sure every athlete. But I got time. Do you even know how much? And you see this. I see this a ton with athletes. The most frustrated I've ever seen any athlete, period, is when they go through a period of inconsistency, no motivation, and no commitment, and they don't want to do anything. They got reds across the board. Yeah, I'm gonna get back to it. Just give me a little bit. I'm taking a break. I got time. And then and then they get back to work. Monday, knocked out. Tuesday, done. Wednesday, check. Thursday, sick. They are so pissed that they can't train. Ugh. This always happens. I'm getting such a good groove, and I'm so pissed I can't run today. Where was this level of disdain the last month and a half when you weren't doing shit? The most angry and frustrated you hear an athlete about not being able to do something is when they've come off a period of time where they held themselves up to no standard and no accountability for no reason. And then, just like life works, you can't plan it, but you think you have time, and all of a sudden you get derailed, right? You got to train. You chose to not even put it on the track for weeks or for months. And then you're like, you know what? I think where's that conductor? Get me back on the tracks. Let's get going. And then about 2 miles down the road, you go off track because of life. Nothing out of your control, because that's just how it works. But you're so irritated and frustrated. You're like, why don't you have that general, low level base of irritability, not in not being able to work out, but your inability to make the time and your inability to get things done. All right, we're not the podcast that tells you to always work out 24/7 and to put, training before life, because that's not us. But at the same time, you have a certain standard of, I get things done. I got to figure it out. It's a time management problem. And who's your manager? You. So fix it. Make the time. Stop making excuses, right? Because you'll say, I got time. Don't worry, I got time. I got time. You said that last month. Now we've wasted a month. I know, but I got time. It's late season race. I got plenty of time. Next thing you know, you're trying to convince yourself that a 3-week build is enough. You don't. And you don't even know what the next 6, 8, 10 months is going to look like. I mean, I talk to athletes all the time when they talk about, next year I think I want to do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, do you remember what happened last year and how different your life is now versus how it was last year? Because there's a huge difference in holding yourself accountable and feeling like you have to plan for perfection, which is what I think gets in the way of a lot of athletes' success, is they feel like they have to be perfect. No, you don't. You just got to be really good 70 to 80% of the time. Because then you allow so much room for success, and that it's not a failure if you miss 25 or 30%. It's not a failure. That's just life. You're planning to be flexible. You're planning to be pretty good. But most athletes think that they have to be great and they have to do it perfectly. And then the most often, scenario you see isn't the same athlete that says they have time that can't, get their act together and do their training. Well, then 2 to 3 months before a race, they feel like they have to be perfect. I had an athlete call earlier this morning. Hey, I think about doing Ironman Texas or maybe Ironman Chattanooga. And I just said, listen to me. I know Ironman Texas sounds like a great idea. It's October. Sounds far away. Really isn't. This time last year, if we look at your training, from October to December, you were sick 2 or 3 times. You had an injury. Obviously, we're not planning on any of those happening, but you're decreasing your time and amount of wiggle room you have to prepare for a big race with these big goals that you have. I'm not saying it can't happen. No, but I'm saying it's a lot more fun to plan for a race and anticipate imperfection and anticipate life obstacles and even anticipate that there might be some periods of up and downs of great health and mediocre health or feeling, down or whatever it is. That's okay. That's life. But a lot of times we like to plan for perfection, and then we either hold ourselves accountable to this great expectation of getting it all done, or then we go back down to nothing because we don't see the point. And so there's these different things you can do and focus on and remind yourself of that. One, you don't know that you're going to have that much time. You just don't. It's none of it's guaranteed, but we just waste it all like we have an endless supply of it. And I think that's one of the most, and I think everyone I share that frustration too with myself by sometimes like, oh, you didn't, stop wasting time and go do this and go do that, but I think it's hard to kind of flip that switch sometimes, but I think it's good to remind ourselves, as time is a currency and how much we just give it away to shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's just so powerful because I know that I'm that guy, a lot of times, and I'm not, invincible to the time trap and, well, there is time tomorrow or whatever. And it is one of those, like when I train for Ironman, I'm always, I shouldn't say always, but I kind of do that, you know, like you're saying, I'm like the Texas thing. It's like, I know that, oh shit, well, I probably won't do a lot until the first of the year and then the window closes, but I'm kind of that, sort of want to put the pressure on myself. And it's like you take away, instead of, you know, building kind of a insurance to everything, you're really kind of putting everything on the edge and hoping everything goes perfect. And it's just so easy to get caught in that trap instead of just kind of, you know, rat holing away a little bit of experience and a little bit of training in case something does go wrong. And I think that, you know, you see, you're talking about perfection there. And I think a lot of us, you know, we have our own perfection, right? Whatever that means, like, let's just say for a race, that perfect race that we have in our minds. And to me, the perfection and the pursuit of perfection has always been synonymous with procrastination, because, you know, we want to do it perfect. So we kind of like, it's sort of that thing about, well, I'm not going to start till I'm ready and I really know that I'm going to keep going. But really, perfection is, you know, very difficult, obviously, and it's unattainable in so many ways. But the way to get there is, like you're saying, just to do the little things along the way and to build good habits. And I mean, I think back to like some of my better races, and it was really just consistency. And there wasn't any kind of like, wow, I think I'm going to crush this race. But I look back and I'm like, man, I just was working harder. I was just doing things that I almost was doing them with blind faith. And going about my business, and then I would show up in the race and just be in better shape and better mental state and have another layer to dig deep into and things like that. But, you know, a lot of times lately I've been sort of showing up with this, like, okay, if everything goes perfect, I can do it, but it never really does. And I don't have that well to dig into. So, yeah, I just think the procrastination has become a massive part of what's going on here. And it's just so easy to do. I mean, like and I'm not blaming anybody, because I feel like everything is crafted now to create procrastination. And then also on the other terms, we can do things faster than ever, right? You know, it's like there's programs and apps and all kinds of things that have, you know, quickened the way we live, and things that used to take a lot of time and effort now can be done overnight or whatever. You know, there's something as simple as, you know, you used to have to take your bill down to the power company and pay it in person, and now you can set everything up so we can increase this quickening of society. And there's just so many more things that we're like, wow, we can just do that tomorrow. You know, it's a real quick deal instead of just knocking it out. But it never seems to stop either. So that's why I think it's important to really kind of clarify what you want to do, because then otherwise you'll have so many different distractions brewing in the background that we don't even know. You know, it's like you can do anything. You know, I've talked about before, anybody can be a video editor. Like I spent years and years in training to do that. And now it's like they have apps for it. So, but you know, so much of that is unfulfilling too, is the thing. Is like, you know, you kind of whip something up and then it's just gone, and it's such a disposable situation on the internet. I mean, think about when you used to like look at pictures that somebody took on a vacation. You know, it's like you'd sit down in the living room and look through them and pass them around, and it was like an experience. And now it's just like flip, delete, and it's like, so it's just an interesting thing, man. So much is easy out there, and so many things we can just do whenever we want, but I think that's why it's so much more important to really get to the core and figure out what it is you're looking for. And to me, training is my compass. I've talked about Ironman, and every year I kind of like, well, that might be it. But I think I need to keep it going, because for me, for lack of a better word, it keeps me doing the hard things. And I think we need to do hard things in life. because not everything, but there's so many things that are easier than they used to be, but we still need that, like I found myself up here around here. I loved it. You still love to do it. Just get out in the yard and do shit like that because you're using your hands and using your body. And that's what triathlon is to me. It's sort of like a physical connection to the earth, and to my body. And, it's easy to say, well, man, I'm just going to give it up or whatever, take it easy for a while. But I think it's not good to do that. I think it's good to have something that's challenging in your life mentally and physically that kind of keeps you going. Otherwise you just kind of, like you said, sit around and start popping Cheetos and watching, Suits like I do, man. You pop in these cycles, man. They can grab you so easy now.
You said a few things in there that stuck out to me in terms of just talking about, the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where we should really hone in and focus on our accountability. A lot of people want a race to hold you accountable, an event in the future, or a goal or a dream or whatever it is. They want that to hold you accountable. But getting there, you need to focus on a lot of different things. But the main thing you need to focus on is just the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Just get up doing the work. Making sure you take care of yourself, right? Getting enough sleep, eating right, sleeping right, acting right, recovering, being smart in your training, not doing stupid stuff. Just hold yourself accountable to the easiest stuff. That should be the easiest thing to do. Normal day-to-day stuff. Hold yourself accountable to that. Not to a goal, not to a set number of hours a week, not to, an expectation or what you predict might happen. Because all that stuff, because what that does is it just leaves room for, all kind of different levels of interpretation. Well, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but I guess I'll just kind of mail it in. Oh, I'm getting close. I better do this. I better that. Or I'm getting behind, or I'm doing this, or I'm too far ahead, or what's so-and-so doing? You're comparing. But if you're focused on the fundamentals of what you have to do day in and day out, it's not shiny. It's not exciting. It's not, social media worthy. Like that stuff should feel pretty easy. And the cool thing is if you focus on those small things, the fundamentals, it's pretty easy to hold yourself accountable to those. But then over time, one, you become fitter, you become faster, you become stronger, you become healthier, but you also increase the amount of energy that you're going to put towards being accountable, but it's going to seem like less because you've trained yourself to hold yourself accountable, to be consistent, to do the things you need to get done. So it's no longer a chore. It feels easy. Right? It's just like training. The more you do it, the easier it feels. Right?
Yeah.
And then you raise up a little bit more. So you just really need to focus on the fundamentals, holding yourself accountable, and find ways to increase your own accountability. We spend so much time searching for accountability. Hell, I would say 30% of all Ironman signups are people searching for accountability. You're willing to pay a price, right? New bike, that'll keep me accountable. New trainer, that'll keep me accountable. New pair of run shoes, that'll keep me accountable. Sign up for 3 fulls next year, that'll keep me accountable. No, it won't. You keep you accountable. Period. And so the less you rely on the outside world and other people to hold you accountable, and you increase the likelihood of your own accountability, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah. Can't argue with that, man.
Yeah. And if you can't argue with it, we'll wrap it up right there.
Oh man. Well, I mean,
one podcast will argue. We'll be that podcast that people go back and forth, and we'll be like The View.
Oh God.
Isn't that what people do on there? They just argue the whole time. People pay to watch that, or like the sports and the ESPN, show like the 9 to 11 o'clock shot on Fox and ESPN. All the people do is just sit and argue about opinions and things they don't know.
Dude, man, you hit on something there that's just so true. I mean, everything has become an argument. I think they just, they pit. I mean, it's all for, views and clicks, and I don't know why we're so drawn to that. I mean, the whole debate.
it's exhausting and annoying as hell to me.
I haven't watched ESPN in probably at least 5 years. You know, like a panel or any of that kind of, you know, all their shows have, you know, went away from actual sports into this like debate about
debate. Yeah.
You know,
debate opinion.
Yeah,
and I can't.
It goes on and on though. That's another. I just think it's a really good thing that you uncovered there. That's just on top of everything we already talked about. There's just so much angst, and it's, you know, whether it's on social media or Twitter or ESPN or whatever, and now, I mean, it just becomes what we look at, and it's just so weird. I don't know. And there's no like solution. It's just that becomes the whole issue, is the debate itself. It's not even, they're not trying to find solutions really. It's just kind of, you know, ruffling somebody's feathers one side or the other. And it's just a big back and forth, and it's, you know, so divisive in so many ways. And I don't know.
I hear you, man.
You know,
problems everywhere, ways to get distracted, and just sitting there watching people debate themselves.
I know. And then who's going to be the more outlandish today, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that always gets the most clicks. It's crazy. That's not us. That's not what we do. It will never be that way. For all you listening, we love you. We appreciate you all for tuning in today. Hope you got something valuable from today's podcast. As always, you go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and there's a one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for more info on our coaching, you can click on that tab and find the coach that's right for you. If you need anything from Mike, he is available, crushingiron@gmail.com, or for anything from me, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, man. Well, I watched the playoffs last night. Brewers are already out of it. 162 game season. 2 games later, they're done. It's like,
I'm glad you clarified, because I was about to say, what playoffs?
Yeah, I know. Baseball.
That's not much all of baseball.
Yeah, I have a hard time watching baseball anymore too, because of a lot of reasons.
Well, we all have a lot of reasons to not watch baseball.
Well, it's just it's like I think just what TV has done to it has been my problem.
Yeah.
It's I know I'm an old grumpy man with that, but
yeah, but I'm with you. I gave up on baseball 43 years ago.
Wow.
Yep. Never been into it.
But you still love watching it in person.
Yeah, nothing like watching 7-year-olds play baseball. The amount of focus and detail is incredible. They are always dialed in. No flowers getting picked. No sandcastles getting built at shortstop. It is nothing but dialed in focus for all the 7-year-olds.
Love of the game.
That's right. Love of the game. We love you all.
All right, man. See you later.